On the next all-new episode of Lazarus.
So this is what the Earth really looks like.
I don't remember the last time I saw a clear sky. That's because Babylonia City is always cloudy.
It's like that everywhere these days.
Maybe this is something Skinner wanted us to see.
The only beautiful places left are those without humans.
Who can really say that Skinner is wrong then?
Lazarus. Next Saturday at midnight on Toonami. Next day on Max.
If your flames get out of control again, you'll be declared a demon and executed, remember?
While Rin struggles to master his powers.
Your blue flames killed people!
The demons have stolen an ancient artifact.
It's an intruder!
Now, it's all hands on deck to try to stop the revival of the impure king.
You're after something else. Something much more sinister.
Blue Exorcist, Kyoto Saga. Next Saturday at 1 a.m. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello everyone, welcome to our podcast Toonami Therapy on May 8th of 2025. I'm Michael.
Oh, hello, I'm Tommy.
And this is our podcast where we talk about things that are on Toonami and a lot of stuff that isn't on Toonami. So,
Yep.
I don't think there's any important Toonami news other than what we, already discussed about, Blue Exorcist Season 2, Bleach 1,000 Year Blood War arc.
Mhm.
And, yeah. So, let's see. This upcoming week, and it's just going to be we're going to get one new episode of Lazarus and then a bunch of reruns, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. All right. And then after that, we'll be having those other series. So, yeah, it'll work out just about the way I mentioned. All right. But we've also got some other series that aren't on Toonami to talk about, including our attempt of, let's just watch a whole bunch of series from the new season of anime, just rank them, see them according to my anime lists, ratings, which, by the way, I've actually already shifted around since we set it up. Tiagonia jumped up 2 spaces. But we'll get to that later in our, I call it May Madness. The problem is the fact that this is going to take long enough that we'll go through June. So,
I like that name.
May Madness. Sure, we'll call it that, and then when it's in June, we'll come up with something else, maybe, or maybe we'll just keep calling it that. But before we get to that, we've still got a bunch of the stuff on Toonami to talk about. So, let's get into it. So we got Lazarus, episode 5. So they basically they manage to break into this building to, and somehow easily beat these security guards in what I think was supposed to be a reference to the Captain American elevator fight scene. I think probably the main character in this series could have saved himself a bunch of trouble if he had just whispered to one of the guards, "Hail Hydra." He manages to get over to the CEO of this place and asks him, and he says, "Yeah, I don't know anything about where Skinner is either. Sorry." So this was, once again, they didn't make any progress. So the characters decide, we're done with, we're tired. We've done all these things and we just keep now finding the guy. What about if we just pretend we find the cure and try to lure him out? Which they try to do, but it ends up not working because it all gets hacked into by this other hacker named Popcorn Wizard, who discovers that it's not real. But then Popcorn Wizard gets away, and that's basically our episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I was just really confused for much of it.
I think the issue I'm really starting to have at this point is there's just no progress really throughout this
Yeah.
whole the
Yeah.
thing, this series. And I've seen people say, well, yeah, but Cowboy Bebop had all these standalone episodes, but yeah, but Cowboy Bebop didn't have a clear, very definite end goal. There was
Yeah.
an overall story about what they were trying to do, but it wasn't like the whole reason the Bebop game was together was, hey, we need to go and do this one thing or capture this one specific guy. They were just kind of bounty hunters and there was a general overall plot going, but whereas in this, we've got such a very clear goal, and yet we just are making progress towards it.
Yeah, and plus, too, I feel like the Cowboy Bebop characters grew as it went along, whereas these characters can't really say that. So,
yeah, that's the other thing. I don't really have that much to say about the characters in this series yet. Now we're only 5 episodes in, but at the same time, we've only got 12 episodes or maybe 13, something like that. So it's more important you do these things immediately. Let's see. So I don't know. I mean, it's still okay. I think I would say this is probably still the best of all these Toonami original series that was like a completely original series, not one that was just, a direct adaptation of something. Like I've all mentioned, what was the best stuff? Shenmue, and although I know some people didn't like it, I thought Uzumaki was okay, but both of those were just directly based. They were adaptations. I want to say that's the key point, because that's differentiated them from Rick and Morty the anime, which wasn't very good, because that was more. I can't say that was quite an adaptation. It was more like sort of a spin-off or inspired by. It wasn't like we will take this story and just retell it in anime form. It wasn't that. That's what those other series were doing.
Yeah.
But it was still okay. I just am starting to think, if we're going to have such an obvious end goal and have such giant stakes, because literally the whole human race is at stake here, or at least a very high percentage of it, we need to have like a feeling of where it's actually going, than just, this again didn't accomplish anything. Whoop-de-doop.
Yeah, it really isn't gaining much ground, I'd have to say. I Sometimes I feel like I'm missing something, because I feel like, okay, they've got to be gaining ground somehow, but no, they aren't. So, yeah. Plus, it gets kind of old, the same thing. It's like, okay, they go through the whole thing just for nothing to happen. You know, that's already been used enough times that now we need to get some sort of semblance of a progress. So yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. So we move on to the end of Blue Exorcist Season 1, Episode 25. Well, they basically reflect sunlight to the academy to weaken the monsters, and then they beat Satan, who it's kind of unclear about whether he's actually killed or just banished or whatever, but he's at least beaten for now, and then they just go back and start doing more Exorcist stuff. And yeah, that was the episode, and nothing in this episode is going to matter in the next one, so don't worry about it.
Yep. Nothing really matters in this second half of the first season. And did we ever see what Satan looks like? Or
I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think we do. I think we've only seen him when he's possessing people, or it's like some sort of force. I don't think we ever actually see. I don't even know if he's supposed to have a physical form in this series or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, did we see him in this episode? I feel like we might have, but I can't remember.
And then they had that really weird part where it was like almost giving Satan like a bad backstory. So it's like, poor Satan, this is why he turned out the way he did. I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm like, come on. I made jokes about sympathy for the devil, but this is too much. I mean, you're gonna give me a One Piece flashback to try to make me feel sad for him? I mean, come on. That's ridiculous.
Especially when you consider the fact that well, I've always mentioned like you basically have to, despite the fact they keep using all these like references, like, oh, there's the Vatican, their bad guy is Satan, we've got all there's all this other stuff. You really just have to separate these completely from like the real world or actual Christian concepts of these things. But you just like but if you set that aside, it's just like, well, okay, he was a bad guy, and I guess we just got, like you said, the One Piece flashback in some previous episodes, and that's kind of it. I mean, I guess they had to rush things if they wanted to reach an end, but maybe that's the lesson of why you shouldn't do that. Just follow the original source material. I don't know where the source material was at this point. I don't know if they did this because they decided we need to have an ending to the series here, or if they just didn't have enough for the full 25 episodes and they decided, well, we have to put in some filler stuff also. But, well, if it's the latter, I'm just thinking, well, maybe you should have just waited a little longer before you made the anime. But either way, it's I'm having the issue I'm having is it's because I didn't really like this that much, but it's hard for me to know how much of that was legitimately just not liking it and how much of it was just knowing this doesn't matter. The last several episodes don't matter. We're just going to go back like 8 episodes or whatever in season 2. So let's just get this over with. And whether that's just the reason I didn't like it. I can't when this aired way back in Toonami, I can't remember exactly what I thought of the final episode. I seem to remember not really liking the later episodes, but it was so long ago, I can't remember for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to get back to the actual canon. For anyone just joining us who doesn't know what we've been talking about, the last, I think, 8 or I can't remember the exact number of episodes in this season, just filler. The anime just went off and did its own thing. So,
not like filler is always bad. I mean, sometimes filler can be good, so
true.
But this wasn't really all that great, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people, I remember people when Dragon Ball Z Kai took out all the filler, some people were disappointed that it cut out things like the episode where Goku gets a driver's license. People really liked that episode. So, well, what was I going to say? The one thing I'm worried about for the next season is that because I'm just going to be thinking, I think they just go into it as if the last 7 or 8 or whatever episode, I don't know, you can look it up online, every one, but it didn't happen. And I'm just going to be like, will I remember what was actually going on at that point?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was when he was trying to do the candle trick.
I think, it was around that point. I think that candle thing happened in the manga. I don't know if they'll repeat that or if they'll just go past that part or what, but we'll see. So all I remember is that what was happening was that this was back when, his classmates discovered, oh, he's son of Satan, and I've heard that in the actual story, they don't like just get over it as quickly as they do in the first season of the anime. So that's about where we'll be. So we'll see that in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll be better than this last stretch of episodes.
Yep.
Okay. After that, we move to episodes 723 and 724 of One Piece. Are we? Wow, it really is those numbers. I double checked. For some reason, I thought we were still in the 600s. Okay. So, let's see if I remember exactly what happened here.
The first episode, Doflamingo was about to kill Law, and then Luffy stepped in, and then Luffy tried fighting, and then he got covered in snot from the Doflamingo's.
Trouble.
Yeah, that
Trouble,
guy.
that's his name.
Yeah, and then in the second episode, Luffy's all stuck in that, and then Rebel does that to Law, and then he's about to set him on fire, and then something happened. I forget what even happened, but Law has something up his sleeve, and that like destroys Treble. Oh, there's a lot of flashbacks. I should mention that. Yeah, a lot of flashbacks. That's why this seems to be a lot shorter than it actually was. So, yeah. And like if Trevor would have just gone ahead and killed him right away, everything would have been fine. But Law is like invincible. He like cannot be. He can be shot multiple times. You know, he can have all this bad stuff happen to him, and he just keeps on going. So, yeah. I didn't think the episodes were all that bad. I just the flashbacks were a little much.
Yeah, I was thinking that it was a little ironic because we were talking about, sympathetic flashback for Satan in Blue Exorcist. Well, we got a whole bunch of that for Doflamingo in these episodes. So another, I guess, sympathy for the devil, as you could say.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I thought there was a point where they thought they beat Doflamingo, but then Doflamingo is like, haha, I'm not defeated, but maybe I'm getting that mixed.
That happened.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that was it. I just couldn't remember what Doflamingo's explanation for that was. I know it had something to do with his powers, but yeah, it was there is some decent stuff here. It was kind of funny to see, oh yeah, Treble's actually not, that big. He's just got all that like mucus stuff around him, that's all. So, but yeah, I don't really have that too much else to say about One Piece. At least we're on the Doflamingo fight for, oh man, how long is this fight going to go on? We kept like saying, just finish this stuff with just finish this thing with Luffy fighting this guy whose name I can't remember offhand, get to Doflamingo, and now we're in here and thinking, how long will it be until we're thinking, just finish this fight already. Okay. Yeah, what was the guy who's fighting? Was it Bellamy or Bartolomeo? I get their names mixed up.
I think it's the first one.
Yeah, I checked. It's Bellamy. It wasn't Bartolomeo. Yeah. That was, yeah. Okay. All right, that's it for the Toonami series, and let's move on to the other stuff. So we're continuing on with Yu Yu Hakusho, episode 53. Okay, so what happens here is, well, Genkai died, so but Luffy, sorry, Yusuke, why did I say Luffy? You after talking with Koenma, who says that who gives him a message from Genkai that's just something like, tell him that he'd better not be depressed and die, or else I'm going to be annoyed. So that helps him get over it. Let's see. Suzuki, remember the weird clown guy from before? Well, he shows up and tells Kuwabara and Kurama, hey, so here's some of the magical items I had. I'm just going to give it to you guys because while I don't like you, I like Toguro even less. So I guess that's the source for their power ups. We also do have, Sakyo, the guy Toguro's working for. We find out his plan is he wants to get a ton of money in order to make a permanent gate between Earth and the demon world or demon realm or whatever it is. And the other guys say, well, you're insane. And these and say, we're just going to get rid of you. And he says, oh yeah, well, I got Toguro. And he just kills the monsters they sent at him and then kills the rest of the tournament committee. So we got that done there, I guess. And then we're going to move into the final round next.
Without a committee.
Yeah, apparently. I guess Sakyo's there. Is he like technically the new committee then, or what?
Yeah, I didn't really understand all that stuff that was going on, that mafia boss type stuff that went on. I was kind of confused. Who was on what side and whatever. So yeah, not the best of episodes. So yeah.
There were some kind of fun bits in it, but yeah, mostly was just kind of there to, I guess, how you say, bridge to the final fight, which we'll be getting. Well, I don't know if we'll be getting the actual thing. We'll we'll be starting in the next episode. We'll at least be starting to start it, I think.
Starting to start it, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to do that joke for a long time after Made in Abyss. Remember how long we were talking about? It just took them so long to start the Abyss. Well, they're starting to start the plot.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Now it's time for the series that we were going up. We watch outside of it for what we're planning to do. So again, what we just did is we just decided, okay, well, there's a whole lot of new series coming that are premiering. They're way too long for us there's too many for us to do all of them. So let's just cut it down. Let's just choose all the stuff that's got dubs and are on series, because you mostly only want to watch dubs and that are in the services we both subscribe to. So yeah, so we got, and which coincidentally matched up perfectly to 16.
Yeah, so, and the name of it.
Oh, the May Madness, you mean? Or do you mean the series?
No, May Madness. I
guess it's
a cool name.
Yeah, I don't know what we'll do if we do this for another season though. But yeah. All right, so to try, and then we just seeded them according to, once again, the My Anime list rankings at the point. So for this ones we've got so they're just matched up like that, and each round we're just going to pick the best of the two that went head to head. So in this one we've got To Be Hero X versus The Beginning After the End, and also From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman versus Once Upon a Witch's Death. Okay, so what we're planning to do, and once we actually put it into practice, we'll see if it works out okay, is that we'll just say simultaneously what we think we'll go with of them, and then talk about our reasons for it in this series, and then see if we come to what we end up deciding, because, we might change each other's minds. All right. We'll start out with To Be Hero X, the ranked, seeded as 1, and The Beginning After the End, seeded as 16. So, to quickly describe them because, again, half of these things we're going to be dropping anyway, so I'll just explain the premise quick. To Be Hero X takes place in some sort of world where there's a bunch of heroes, and it's indicated that they get their power from, people trusting them and such. So you want to be, really popular for that reason. Anyway, so one of the major heroes ends up actually dying by apparently committing suicide. So our main character, who happened to be there at the time, ends up having to take his place and fight as him. So next, the beginning after the end. Well, we obviously had to get an isekai here at some point. So our main character is a king from some futuristic world, and then he dies and gets reincarnated as a kid in the fantasy world, and he's of course got his memories, although for some reason it mentions that he's unable to fully control his body until he gets older. And then he manages to, learn some magic stuff, and he's really good at it. That's the 2 series. All right, so let's give it a go. So I'll count to 3, and then we'll say the same time what we want. How about we just say To Be Hero or Beginning? That's the same number of syllables.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, no, To Be Hero. No, that's 4. Beginning is 3. Yeah, close enough. To Be Hero or The Beginning. Got it? Okay.
Okay. Yep.
1, 2, 3. To Be Hero.
To Be Hero.
Okay. Oh, I beat you a little there. All right. Okay, well, we agreed on it, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because To Be Hero X, its plot is more interesting, and the animation, it's like the only it's one of the few 3D animes I've seen, and it looks really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought there was a lot of humor in it, even though it was kind of a dark subject. They still had a lot of funny things about it, and how awkward the I forget his name already. We'll have to learn his name now that he's advancing.
Let me let's see. The main character, he's Lin Ling, although the character, the hero that he's taking the place of is named Nice.
Yeah. Nice. What a name.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I thought there was a lot of funny moments with him, and him not being ready, and then him wanting to be around hot women and not knowing how to react being around a hot woman. That was pretty funny. I just thought there was a lot of good humor in this, even though it is kind of serious. So definitely think this is the better of the 2. Do you want me to talk about the other one now, or do you want to first talk about?
You can talk first if you want.
Okay, so the other one, it's just basically an isekai, and there's really nothing unique about it. It's just kind of okay, there's a guy who gets reincarnated into another world, and now he has to grow up, and it felt like the saga of Tanya the Evil without any of the things that made that series unique. It just felt like kind of like, okay, he's a king, and now he's a kid, and that's pretty much it. Now, while I was watching it, though, I didn't really hate it or anything. I thought it was, okay, but in this case, it's clearly not as good as the other one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got it got very low ranked on my anime list, and it's gotten a lot of blowback in general because part of the thing about this is that apparently now you can often tell like the amount of excitement or interest there is for a series before it premieres. If you go to my anime list, look at the season for that, and nothing has premiered yet, and look at the number of members for each series, which is actually how it's sorted by default. And more members, more hype. And of course, as you might have guessed, normally the highest rated ones in this are just going to be a returning series, like it was Black Butler, Fire Force for this season were the highest. Of the new series, number one was My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which makes sense. It's a My Hero Academia spinoff. And this was actually number two. There was actually a lot of people who were really interested in the show because they liked the source material. And a lot of people then really got upset with the anime because they thought it was a really bad adaptation of it because of, the animation being like kind of not great and other things. I think, well, looking at it, I've only seen the first episode, and we're not going to go to the second anyway. I've heard, I think the animation got worse in subsequent episodes, so that might be it. But that, I think, is what made it because this is actually the lowest rated series right now, again, on my anime list of this season. It's down to like a 5.3 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I said, it's ordinarily this would have just kind of been like a forgotten series, just another isekai that, they just made off a small budget. But I think that combined with, the fact people were kind of excited about it, made there be more backlash to this and got it more criticism. I actually did look at the comic. It is possible to find it online. It's on a site called Tapas, I think, and it's also in print. I was looking at the print one because I like the print more than the webtoon format online. And yeah, I think it was a little better in some ways. There's definitely more monologuing by the main character in the anime, which and the fact you keep hearing it in the old man voice just gives it a kind of level of seriousness that when you read it, it's not quite. It doesn't sound like that. It is sometimes a little more funny.
Yeah.
I definitely have heard that even in the source material, it is kind of generic for a while, but it does get more interesting later. So yeah, if the story or something seems potentially interesting, that might be the better way to go through it. I will still say one thing about this. If this is actually the worst thing we're going to watch this season, then oh boy, are we going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Okay. The one final thing I wanted to say was one thing I did kind of find interesting is it does look like this one is going to actually be about him starting as a baby and gradually growing up, as far as I can tell. Whereas most isekai is just, okay, they're a baby for a brief bit and now they're an adult, or they just kind of stay at the same age at point. So that makes this a little different. Although, like I said, I've seen a lot of people, that's what Mushoku Tensei did. And a lot of people say, yeah, this is just a copy of Mushoku Tensei, although without the weird sex stuff. So actually that might be a selling point to some people. Hey, it's this, except without all the weird stuff in it. So, okay. Yeah, I think that's basically it for this series. Like I said, I don't think it's terrible, but it's not the greatest. And, when you look at the other series it's up against, it's a pretty easy choice.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so next one up. From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman, this is a series about a guy who's basically an old country bumpkin who actually he's not that master. Yeah,
he becomes a master swordsman.
Well, he already is kind of a master swordsman is the thing. The plot is that he's a really great swordsman, teacher, and a bunch of his students have achieved really great success. So one of them basically forces him to come over to the capital to become a instructor, which his parents are excited about because they just want him to get around having grandchildren for them already. And so he goes there, and yes, he actually is really good at it. And yeah, it seems like all of his former female students, or at least the two we meet so far, yeah, they're totally in love with him also, which he doesn't, get because hijinks. The next other one is Once Upon a Witch's Death, where in this one, the main character, when I can't remember if this is when she turns 17. What I think that was it. And then she gets told, by her sort of teacher. By the way, you have 1 year to live. You need to get. I can't remember the number. Was it like 100 for some number? Okay, 1,000 tears of joy from people to prevent the curse from killing you. And so then she decides, well, I guess I'll try to get on it. And she ends, and so basically she goes and solves some people's problems and gets some of those, and is still very short. So we'll see if she manages to make it or not. Okay, let's go again. All right. So for I guess we can just say Witch's Death or Swordsman. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Witch's Death.
Witch's Death.
Okay.
We jumped the gun there.
Yeah. We're not. No. Yeah. I need to like say it a little slower, I guess, or something. Well, we picked them anyway, so.
Yeah.
It looks like we agree. Yeah. All right. You kind of gave the explanations for the last one, so I'll start for this one. Well, when I watched From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman, my reaction was, wow, this series is just a little above average in basically everything. Like, if a 5 out of 10 is dead average, which in terms of rating skills, when people rate stuff is really more like 7. I know you actually tried much more to have a 5 being actual average, but generally speaking, it really seems like 7 is average when people rate stuff. But if a 5 out of 10 is average, this is basically in everything a 6 out of 10, except for the part where they have the sword fight. That actually bumps up a little because that was actually looked pretty decent. But yeah, just everything is just adequate. How is the story? Well, it's adequate. How are the characters? Adequate. Everything is just completely adequate about this series. Whereas when I look at Once Upon a Witch's Death, I would actually say that a bunch of the show I found less interesting than Master Swordsman. I'd say like most of it was maybe a 5 out of 10. But it also had parts that just jumped up to like an 8 or a 9. Like the stuff when the main, so there's a lot of funny stuff, especially early on with the main character. That kind of it reminded me of like some of the like stuff from Raeliana. Remember her?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was kind of fun, like the kind of comedic, just the funny reactions to when her teacher is just telling her, yeah, you're going to die in a year. And she's like, oh, well, you shouldn't joke about things like that. So, yeah, of the two, I kind of almost feel like Master Swordsman, I enjoyed a little more, but I feel that it's also the kind of series I look at. I'm like, okay, I know this kind of series. It's just going to stay like this the whole time. Almost certainly, it'll just be a somewhat above average. This series, I think, this other series, Once Upon a Witch's Death, I think, has a better chance of, in the second episode, like concentrating more on the stuff I really liked and being like a much more interesting series. That was basically my thought process.
Yeah, see, the way I picked this one, because I thought both series were pretty good. I liked some of the female characters from Master Swordsman, and I thought, okay, maybe I'm gonna like this one better. But whenever I watched Once Upon a Witch's Death, I felt like there was like more of a plot there. There was more of a goal. There was like something to work through, something that had me wanting to come back for the next episode. Whereas like the old country one was like, yeah, this is good, but like, what's the point? So Yeah, that's both of them might have problems, but I feel like there's more potential with Witch's Death, so that's the one I'm going with here.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, her teacher is voiced by the same person as Genkai from Yu Yu Hakusho.
I kept thinking she had to be voiced by Anya's voice actress, but I was wrong. Because she sounded a lot like Anya for some reason, and like maybe that's the same person. Like, nope, not at all. So
Yeah. The funny thing is that there are four series this season that have the word witch in it somewhere. There's this one, there's Witch Watch, there's Mayabashi Witches, and there's Black Butler Emerald Witch arc. Those last two of those will not be on our bracket. Mayabashi Witches doesn't have a dub, and Black Butler, that's a continuation where we were only doing this for new series.
Right.
Yeah. We'll get... All right. Well, that was pretty simple. We both chose the same series, so I guess those will go forward, and we'll get back to these in 4 weeks, because we've got 12 other series to go through first. That is the disadvantage of doing this, because I was thinking, oh man, I really want to see how that cliffhanger at the end of 2B Hero X gets resolved. Well, I guess I'll find out in a month. Okay. So I think that's everything there. So for next week, we're going to, let me double check what was the series that we'll be looking at for next week. It will be
Mobile Suit Gundam GQUX against the Gorilla God's Go-To Girl. Then we've got Mono versus Aeogonia.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Got that. It's Mobile Suit Gundam followed by something apparent where that no one knows how to pronounce. It is a GQ followed by 6 U's and then an X. I think the way it's supposed to be pronounced is G-Quax. So yeah. So we'll see how those go. And we'll see if we've got any big upsets coming in which ones we like more, considering their seeds. Because Mono is 4 going against Teogonia at 13. Although, if I were to have made the bracket like a few days later, then Teogonia would be 11 instead. It jumped up a bit. And then we got the Mobile Suit Gundam G-Quax versus, which is 5 versus Gorilla God's Go-To Girl 12. And I just realized I just said everything that you already said. I just added in the numbers, so that was redundant. All right. We'll see how that works, how those series are. And... Yep. I don't think and... Wow. Felt like we went through stuff pretty quickly this week.
Yeah.
So... But... I think that is everything. I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. But... Yes, for next week... We're just gonna, we'll have our 1 episode of Lazarus, and then we'll also go through those 4 series that we mentioned twice. I mean, we mentioned the series twice. We will not be going through them twice. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I guess we should be giving our top picks for the Toonami and the non-Toonami before I forget.
Yep. Yeah. By the way, I want to throw in that I forgot to mention the best girl of last week, and that would be Fujino of the Look Back movies. So yeah. But for this week, Toonami, One Piece, non-Toonami, Once Upon a Witch's Death, and the best girl of the week will be Meg.
All right. For me, my favorite of the Toonami. This is a little bit of a tricky one because the series in general were kind of not that great this week for Toonami. I am so glad we'll be getting the other stuff next time. I guess I'll also choose One Piece then.
Mm-hmm.
And for the non-Toonami series, I'll say To Be Hero X of these. So,
okay.
All right. We'll see how things go next week. And yeah, was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we go?
Well, I'm still reviewing Bleach, and we got to this bizarre filler arc, like in the middle of the Rankar arc, where like Rengiku goes and has like a fashion show, basically, and like puts on all these clothes, and then somehow it gets into a situation where C and her Toshiro and Ikaku and Yumi Chika all have to help some boy out from a hollow. So it's actually amusing because before this, all it's been is the stupid visors, and I hate the visors so bad. Like there may only be one or two of them that I don't hate, and so yeah, it's a good break from the visors because Hiyori is a really awful character, and there's nothing redeeming about her at all. So it's nice to have a break from that for now. So it amazes me how much filler stuff got baked into the actual story. Like when Ichigo is fighting in the visor's place and fighting like old foes, he fights against Karya at one point, and then those mod souls kind of get some screen time too, and I think they're all filler. So yeah, so it's funny how those how they were able to incorporate the filler stuff in while not changing the story at all. So anyway, yeah, that I've been still going through that. I'm at episode 128. So I've somehow still been doing this once a day for a year, so we'll see how long I can keep it up. I made it to May.
Yeah. Well, never forget that that in an actual trial, a lawyer ended up making a reference to filler to Bleach filler episodes in trying to make a point. It was what was it? I know this was mentioned in something. Let's see. Let me look it up and see if I can find this. It wasn't it something? Oh yeah, it was like during the Young Thug trial. That was it. This one person was representing like Rodalius, and here I'm just actually going to read it. I actually wrote it down just because I remember I think sometime I mentioned this before a long time ago, but here it is. Here's a quote. So she's again representing Rodalius, who I think she was trying to make the argument that he shouldn't be involved in this anyway because he was already in prison or something. And she says, "This reminds me of this anime named Bleach, where it's 16 seasons. Every episode is about 18 to 20 episodes. Sorry, I mean every season's 18 to 20 episodes. And they have season 4 and 5. They have these bouts. They're the villains of the whole thing in season 4 and season 5." The main characters are trying to get them out of Soul Society. You go to season 6, you don't hear about the bounce. You go to season 7, you don't hear about the bounce. Why don't you hear about these important characters? Because they're filler characters. It's a filler season. Me and Rodalius, we're fillers. We're not integral to the story. So yes,
did they win the case after that?
actually, I have no idea what happened with that. I'd have to like I said, they weren't like the main defendant in there. That's one of the reasons why they were trying to that was like the point she was trying to make. Let me I'd have to look up a little more to try to
that's fine.
Yeah, I'm actually not even looking sure if this thing that I'm looking at is the original trial he was in or the one that this was in reference to, but yeah. So yeah. The mod souls, that's one of the problems, unfortunately, with nowadays, because when I was young and I watched Dragon Ball, I didn't have any idea what filler even meant. I just accepted everything that was on screen. And it was only, later on I found out, like a whole lot of that stuff never, wasn't in the manga. They just added it to the anime. And it makes it so, unfortunately, as soon as I know something's filler, I'm like, well, I care about this a whole lot less.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And unfortunately, once you know that the mod soul characters are filler, because they were from the Bound arc, but they just decided to keep them around for more filler afterwards. And, as soon, are they on screen? Well, what they're doing is padding. I'll be fair, a few times they actually did integrate them into, a more canon scene, for example. But most of the time, whenever they're doing something important that seems important, this is just filler, and that's the unfortunate thing. It is a little funny to think about that in the context of the Bleach anime. They just at some point just disappear and don't show up again. What happened to them in universe? I wonder if they'll just make a cameo at the end of 1,000 Year Blood War arc or something. Okay. So yeah. And where can people see these reviews you mentioned writing?
Well, right now it's on TommyAPhillips.com. And click on the Anime Bowl to part of the banner. So that's where it is.
Okay. Well, I think that's everything then. So I guess we can call it quits. For the record, because previously we used Skype to record, but then that got shut down, and we found out that if you wanted to record on Microsoft Teams, you would have to get some business thing in order to have that ability. And we're like, okay, well, we'll just find some other way, and hopefully this other way has worked. If you're hearing this, it presumably worked, hopefully. So I guess I'll just say that, and if I might actually sound, I should have said that at the start. If I sound a little different, it's because now I'm using a different computer, which obviously has a somewhat different microphone. And it might also, who knows, maybe the recording stuff did things differently. Wow, I really should have said this at the start in retrospect. Oh well. So hopefully everything turned out all right in the recording. And with that, I guess we're finished now. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bleach has been on a filler arc since we took over. But now that it's back to the real business, it's about time we show this sweet piece some love.
Thank you for the compliment.
The story arc is insanely huge, so here's the quick lowdown.
Ready to do this?
Yeah! It's all about Ichigo, a teenager who sees spirits. He kind of screws up early on and is forced to become a soul reaper. They call him Shinigami. Now he has to defend his town from these creepy evil souls called Hollows. Everything in Bleach depends on maintaining the balance of souls, and there are all kinds of players in this crazy game.
Let me enlighten you.
Let's see, there are the humans, pretty straightforward. The Shinigami, or Soul Reapers. And the Aaronkar, maskless hollows that have Shinigami-like powers.
Attack now!
Anyway, there's too much to explain here, but trust me, it's all gravy.
The real battle starts now!
Bleach, every Saturday at midnight on Toonami.
That's what I'm talking about!
Right where it belongs.